All right, folks. Welcome to an all of the above YouTube Extra. I'm sitting down with Mark Jutabha, who just joined us for our seminar discussion about teacher professional development. And I thought it'd be nice to sit down with him one-on-one to learn more about his work in the area of teacher professional development and learn more about his educational journey, because Mark is a UCLA Bruin who was a classmate of mine in the UCLA Educational Leadership Program. And as a UCLA Bruin, I know that he is phenomenal and he's dope and he really comes with it. So I want to sit down and hear more about his journey and what he's up to nowadays. So Mark, thank you for sitting down with us.
Fantastic intro, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. So Mark, let's start with your journey in education.
I started teaching in Culver City, elementary school. Spent about 6 years there, K5. From there, I moved into a middle school charter, South Central Los Angeles, 5, 6, 7, 8, math teacher, moved into administration, kid became an opportunity. That was where I truly came to understand my trajectory, what I wanted to be as an educator. Mm-hmm. From there, I transitioned to my work currently with WestEd as an instructional consultant, school improvement facilitator, where I basically travel the country supporting the efforts of sites and districts and schools.
Dope. So you were an elementary educator first. You started out at the elementary levels. Okay. And then it sounded like, so you moved up to middle school. I don't know if that's a move up or, I guess moved up grade-wise. Did you enjoy the middle schoolers a little bit more than the elementary kids or what?
My passion is 7th grade.
Really?
All right. So I will ride or die middle school. That grade level, middle school.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal.
It's a tough time, man.
But that's the beauty of it, right? So that, a student is trying to find themselves, their identity, who they are, right? And in education. So they're just trying to figure that out. And I just love all the drama and joys and stories that come with that. I miss it dearly.
Nice. All right, so shout out to all you middle school educators who are watching this. In my head, as a high school teacher, I just picture middle school being just bananas, like just so many hormones and so much energy and immaturity and craziness.
Just trying to figure it out.
Nice. Right. All right, so talk to us about the current work that you do then. So you transitioned out of the classroom into administration, and then from there doing work with WestEd. So what does your work look like today?
So currently, I'm iterating a program called Teacher Practice Teams. The focus is mathematics instruction, primarily math identity in students, and how teachers can develop that real time and fast. Right. So the idea, it's a riff on instructional rounds, where a team will build a shared vision. And by team, I mean, if I were at a middle school, it's the entire math department. If I were at a high school, it's the entire math department. And the vision is grounded on the joys and passions of each individual teacher, right? What about education brings you joy and passion? And we bring all that collectively around the table. From there, we identify a problem, a gap that affects every classroom, affects every content area. And from there, it's what solution will an individual teacher take to address this system-wide gap? So there's the buy-in piece, or I wouldn't say buy-in, I would say contribution. Mm-hmm. So then this gets to the heart at, well, those aren't my students, right? Well, these are your students, and what are you going to select instructing to fix or address this gap? And then it's giving the teacher freedom and time to tinker, to play around with it, to kick the tires, make mistakes, fit around with it instructionally of what's going to work. Then we come in, we being a team of their colleagues, and we give them feedback. But they have the power. They determine what to look for and tell us what to count. So the feedback we give them, it's immediately applicable to their instructional practice.
Okay, so help me understand that a little bit more then, because this sounds really intriguing and really innovative in many ways. So let's say you are working with a middle school or high school, and you are beginning your work there. You come in, you're sitting down with the math department, and where does this begin? Like in terms of Are you presenting them with data and asking them their thoughts about why things are the way they are, or are you asking them to sort of consider what are their current challenges? Like, I don't help me understand like what that looks like.
We don't do any of that
Okay.
because the data that's in the past.
Right.
What do they think? Well, I don't know them. They don't know me.
Right.
So we're going to start with what is our team's passions? What brings you to this job every day? All right. And that's pretty much the first session. It's really understanding what drives each individual teacher around that table.
See, that's why we invited Mark for our professional development episode, because that's something that I think does not happen in most professional development situations, that certainly ones that I've been part of, especially when it's been somebody external coming in. I don't recall ever really having a session where that person really opened it up for us to consider what drives us and what we're passionate about, and then sort of begin from there.
To add on, what drives them? What's their passion in terms of mathematics?
Right.
So if I were to ask you, what is your identity as a mathematician around 3 areas? Are you a math thinker? Are you a problem solver? Are you a self-regulator? Like where does your joy live in those 3? And from there, that's where we start the work.
And as a history teacher, I could say I've been in many history related professional developments, and I don't think that the question has ever been asked of me or my colleagues about what drives us and interests us about history. It's kind of just assumed we're into it, so let's move on. So that's fun. All right, so let's stick on this topic of math then. So you've taught math and you lead professional development with teachers around math. I'm a history teacher, and when I look at test scores, it tends to be English and math scores that get reported, and the math scores tend to be ugly. Help me understand, what do you think is, I guess, holding us back in terms of math instruction or math achievement? What's going on there?
In my humble opinion, how does the student feel themselves about, how do they identify as a mathematician in those same 3 areas, right? Am I a thinker? Am I a problem solver? And how do I regulate that? And what does that look like in real-time instruction? Aside from content, think, pair, share, and all these other things we see in a classroom, right? To the degree of how a student can articulate that verbally and in action, I think that's where the challenge lies. Because in most classrooms I walk into, math instruction looks the same. Quick introduction, here's the content, let's practice with me, practice with a teammate, practice by yourselves, here's your task, go forth, repeat.
I remember that from back in the day as a student.
Whereas in my work, this looks like this problem is giving you a runaround, what's going on. It looks like you're frustrated. Talk to me about why you're frustrated. Still honoring the content, but keying into what are your triggers to getting you frustrated, so that now moving forward in whatever task mathematically, you know what to look for and how to adjust.
All right, so then the identity aspect of it, you're saying is a really big component in terms of students' ongoing achievement in math. So is that something that you work with teachers around, in terms of helping teachers not just think about their own math identity, but helping teachers understand how to have a conversation like that with their students?
Yes. So going back to that initial session, how do you present yourself? How do you see yourself? What is your agency as a teacher? How do you present your identity to your students? If it is grounded in joy and passion, then we would see that in instruction. Well, we would hope that how do you bring that forward in your students? How do you tap into the joy and passion of a student themselves, their identity, in the context of mathematics, right?
Right. Awesome. Now, you've also worked not just in schools locally or in the Los Angeles area where we film, but you've worked with schools across the country, and many of them have been what I would say like off the beaten path. A lot of rural communities, schools and towns that I certainly have never heard of. As an educator who's only worked in metropolitan areas myself, when I think about education, I tend to just envision these massive districts and schools with tons of students coming in. Help me understand, what are some of the aspects of rural communities or rural education that maybe an educator like myself doesn't know or doesn't understand?
I think First off, it would be talent. So being able to attract and retain teachers who want to live and work in those communities is a tough challenge, right? Because they leave, and even finding them is a challenge. So often you'll get people with the greatest of intentions be hired to instruct a class they may or may not be prepared to teach, be it for whatever reason. Right. What else?
So attracting talent, I never really thought about the fact that, so I live in the Los Angeles area, and I guess it makes sense. A lot of people want to live in LA because, the beaches and all this other stuff. So teacher shortages and trying to find teachers to fill spots is a challenge generally, but I guess that if you're in a more, attractive area that, maybe you have more to pull from versus a town in a particular place where either you grew up there or that's it, So, all right. So that's a big challenge, I guess.
So I remember now. So talent acquisition, retention is one. And then two is development, right? So again, given a staff in these types of communities with the intent to do well by their students, they may not have the resources to support their efforts. Right? They can't afford to bring in or send out for professional development. And that's been a real struggle and challenge for them.
All right. So shout out to all the rural educators who might be watching this video. Definitely, it sounds like there are unique challenges in your context that I wasn't aware of, and I think more needs to be said about the dynamic that rural communities have that perhaps metropolitan areas like the one I teach in might not have. All right, and then one thing that came up in our discussion on our episode about professional development, I mentioned that a lot of the sessions that I've sat in on, the person has come in and tried to, I guess, forge a bond with us by letting us know that they themselves were a teacher and they understand what it's like in our shoes, this and that, whatever. How do you, when you're working with teachers who you haven't met before, what are some of the things that you do to try to build that connection before digging into the really hard work?
That's a great question. Try and connect with them as an individual, as a parent, as a fellow educator. What grounds us in our beliefs, and once we come to that common ground, then we can move forward.
Dope. All right, folks. Mark Jutabha, West Ed, professional development expert, among many other things. And we're not going to take the time on this interview to talk to him about his Star Wars ranking, which I actually disagree with him on. We'll save that because there's other YouTube platforms for that. But in any case, Mark, thank you so much for coming through and being part of this All of the Above interview and episode.
Thanks for having me.
Our full episode discussion about professional development, seminar discussion that Mark was a part of, is linked below in the description. So after watching this video, make sure you go down there and click that link and see the full discussion that we've had about professional development, the challenges, what works, what doesn't work, and just what the vision of professional development could be moving forward to really move our practice forward. So link down below, click that, and we'll check you next time.